listening to the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast, a podcast in sisterhood for female entrepreneurs that serves up savvy, actionable marketing advice and interviews with creative business owners who are in the trenches, building their businesses as we speak. The Marketing in Yoga Pants community is for you, the girl on her couch, in her yoga pants, top knot tight, hunched over her MacBook, trying her hardest to get the word out about her business. So in the name of supporting each other while supporting ourselves, bringing community, sound marketing advice, coffee, chocolate, and wine together for you, yoga pants wearing business owner, in a world where followers mean nothing, but paying customers mean the world, join us on this week's podcast episode and in our private Facebook group where you'll meet your soul sisters and build your business in yoga pants. Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. I'm Brit and I'm here today with Cher Hale, publicist at cherhale.com. Thank you so much for joining me today, Cher.
Thanks for having me, Brit.
All right, so Cher and I first met via an incredible email she sent me, pitching one of her clients to be on the podcast. And I read her email and I was blown away. I was like, this is the best pitch email I've ever received. This is so good. I definitely want to have this person, Cher's client, on my podcast, and I want to talk to Cher. Like, who is this girl? Because I know that she wrote it. I'm like, hey, who is this girl? So we hopped on a coffee chat, and I want to say a couple weeks ago, and had a great conversation, just understanding, how we do life and how we do business. And it was an easy, I got to have you on the podcast. So here she is. I can't wait to get some insight into her business, her industry, her marketing strategy, and what makes it all tick. So Cher, are you ready to jump in?
I am so ready.
All right, let's do this. So first of all, tell us how you earn your living.
So 2 ways. I run 2 businesses. One, the way that we met, which is through public relations. And primarily, I pitch my clients for podcasts so they can get placements during key promotional periods like launches or just overall to build their credibility online. And then 2, I teach Italian and I run immersion retreats in Tuscany.
That sounds amazing. That's so cool. Well, I know that you're amazing at the PR stuff, and I can't wait to talk about the retreat stuff as well. So let's look back. I want to know, if you're in PR and doing this incredible retreat experience, doing it pretty much all at the same time, tell us the story of how you came to do this with your life.
Yeah, so my very first experience with PR came during, I think it was right at the beginning of college. And I had a women's studies professor, Alexia Vernon, who was launching her new book, and she was doing part-time faculty, part-time life coaching, and she was looking for an intern. So I applied. And our first project together was to do pitching for local magazines, news stations, and any kind of online outlet. And then we also pitched major outlets like CNN and NBC in New York City. So it was my first time having to figure out how to craft a message, how to do a follow-up sequence, and how to get on the phone with an editor and sound compelling and sell somebody else. And we ended up booking NBC and CNN and really big outlets in Las Vegas. And I was just so blown away that people could use words to get things done like that and to make an impact and to have outreach. And so that was kind of the genesis of where PR came to be. And after that, I worked with Natalie Sisson, the suitcase entrepreneur, for about 1.5 years. And I learned a lot about online marketing from her. And from that, I took probably 4 years just doing online marketing for clients to get back around to PR, which is my roots, essentially. And so it's been about 1 year now that I've been doing that full time, even though it's been about 2 years that I've been in business full time.
Okay, and so I do have a question about. I'm gonna wait to ask that question. Tell us now, how do the retreats come in?
Right.
What's that all about? Where did that start, and why?
Yeah, so I have always loved languages. I've had a huge passion for learning languages. And in college, I wanted to study abroad, so I chose Italy. And at the same time, I was working with Natalie Sisson. and learning all things digital marketing. And I thought, I really want to have an online business, but like, what could I possibly do? And when I came back home after my semester abroad, I thought, like, I have all of the skills to build a brand. Why don't I like kill the two birds with one stone, build a brand and hold myself accountable to learning Italian? So I created a site called the Iceberg Project, where I would just essentially like keep all of the things that I've learned into like article format, and I would send free weekly lessons to the people on my list. And it was just like a way for me to keep learning Italian. And I actually had an Italian podcast for 2 years, where we have like now an archive of 200 episodes. And it was just like a really cool experience and like community, a way for me to build community with people who love Italian too. And a way for them to feel like, I'm an American and my accent isn't awesome. And, I make mistakes. And like, I'm a very real person when it comes to learning Italian. And I feel like that really like struck a chord with people. And so I've been meaning to run retreats for years now. And my co-director, Rachel, who lives in Florence, was like, hey, like last September, she was like, hey, can we just do this now? And I was like, you know what? I think it's time. I think it's time we do this. And luckily she runs like an internship program in Florence. So she has a lot of connections with activities and business owners. So it's been really like intuitive for her to do all of the planning in Italy and me to get all the people on the trip.
Right. Because you bring the PR marketing background to get people there.
Right.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Who are these retreats for specifically?
They're for people who are obsessed with Italian and they really want to become comfortably conversational. They've either been studying for 6 months or 6 years, and for some reason, they either want to deepen their connection with the language because they have family or because they just love what the culture offers. And so they're coming really just to have like a cool, not your typical tourist experience with us, and to like, get more practice actually speaking the language in real life.
That's so interesting and so smart because it's just like you said, it's not the typical tourist experience. It's a heightened,
right?
Can't get anywhere else experience. Very cool. And then on the total flip side, completely, because you're not marketing that to any type of entrepreneur. That's not B2B. That's 100% B2C. And then in your other life, I would say, you are working specifically with entrepreneurs, right? Pitching them for opportunities. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Exactly. I have nice. Both sides of businesses.
Yeah. Okay. So before I talk about marketing strategy, I wonder, your background was in PR, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but for me, I think of the typical route that someone who studies PR goes down is that they go straight into corporate. They wear a really nice clothes, really nice suit. They live in the city and they do PR for either an agency or a large corporation. What is it about you that never took you down that path? Because that's not your story at all. So what was that?
Man, that's a good question. I have always been a little unconventional from like when I began college. I knew for sure that I would never have a corporate job. And my parents, of course, were mortified because they wanted me to have a pension and security and set hours. And I just, after seeing what was possible online, just based on the role models that I had in my life, I was like, no, I can have more freedom and I can choose like how I design my life. And I think it was never a question in my mind that I would work for myself. And so I just tried to build the skills that would get me there, like try to build up the endurance that it takes to be an entrepreneur.
That's so interesting. I hope that the listeners hear what you just said, like truly hear it and embody it if they're sitting there thinking that the only way to do their thing is within the traditional route, because PR tends to be a pretty traditional route. I mean, I think everything that we do, unless you went to art school, there's a traditional route, but you don't have to go that route. You can straight up choose not to. So I'm so glad that you just leaned into that and you just knew it. And it sounds like you even had that pretty common experience where the parents are like, but Cher, like this is what you're supposed to be doing over here. Like, this is the stable, this is the pension, this is the this is the traditional thing that you should do. And yet you went against it, and look at you. Like, it kind of seems like you're living a pretty great life, and you're constantly progressing and exploring, which sounds fun. So now take me back. I want to know, and I kind of want to go talk about this in both realms. This is going to be a little different because usually I'm only talking about one business, but these two businesses together seem really interesting. So I'm going to talk about both of them at the same time. So I want to know, how did you get your first retreat attendees? Like, what did that look like? How did you earn your first dollar over there? And then follow that up with, how did you get your first dollar in your publicist role for your PR company?
Right. I got to tell you, it was tough for the retreat. I think there are a lot of like mental blocks around money there because we were charging a really high price for a very short amount of time. And I knew it was like a boutique experience, but I was still like, man, can I charge this much money to one person? So actually I've had that business for 5 years. It's my longest running business. And we have a pretty healthy, engaged email list. And so every Sunday I send weekly lessons, free weekly lessons. I call them bite-sized lessons. And I would just mention the retreat every Sunday and open up applications for the retreat. And a woman named Mary applied. And actually we had 4 people sign up for the first retreat and only 2 ended up coming. And it was Mary and her daughter, actually. And so I was even more like nervous that she was spending some money on her and her daughter to book them on this retreat. And she was just a great first experience. Like, it couldn't have been more perfect because it was like a private tour for them. They had amazing feedback for us, and we were able to show proof of concept. So that was our first retreat participants. So it was just like saying like, hey, things are open, come apply. And they were like, okay, we'll apply. And it worked out.
That's so cool.
And then on the other hand, for PR, it was actually Maggie Patterson, I don't know if you're familiar with her, of Scoop Studios. She planted this idea in my mind that I should pitch for podcasts. And I was like, maybe not. This was probably like a year and a half ago. And eventually, I think I had the idea to I was like, okay, I needed a service to make some quick money. Let me just try this podcast pitching thing. And my very first client was my mentor from back in the day, Alexia Verdon. And she hired me to pitch podcasts for her for a launch she had for her Spotlight Speaker Accelerator. And back then I knew very few shows. My pitching, I would say, skills were a little rusty. And she still just, took the leap of faith with me. And it really worked out because now I pitch podcasts full time.
Interesting. And you had that testimonial from a well-known person to probably drive. Well, I don't want to skip ahead. I don't know what happened next. So tell us what happened next after your first experience with Mary, that one person that was like, yeah, I'll take a shot on this. And I'm in that place right now with launching my retreat where it's like, okay, yeah, it's a boutique experience. It's maybe a big ask, but it's also extremely valuable. And I know in my heart that there are people out there that need this. And without it, they're not going to be able to experience their business and their life in the way that they hope to experience it. Right. And that's a belief within me, but getting someone to believe it as well is definitely a challenge. It's a good challenge for me. It scares the crap out of most people, I think, but I'm digging in there. I'm doing it. Right. So what happened after Mary? What made you keep at it? Cause I think a lot of people might be like, yeah, okay, well, that was the fun month in Italy, but I'm not going to do that again because what if nothing sells again? What happened after Mary? And then what happened after your first podcast pitching experience to keep that going?
Yeah, that's a good point, Brit, because I think most people, and my co-director too, was like, Cher, 2 people, this is not impressive. And I just told her, I was like, Rachel, look, we only need one person. And that became our mantra for the whole experience. So we just need one person who's going to finish this one trip. And for both of us, our lives are so innately wrapped up in Italian and the Italian culture that we knew for sure that it was not just a one and done thing. Like we knew we were trying to prove to ourselves and other people that it would work. And so for us, it was like an experiment, and we were cool with not being super successful. But it turned out so well because we were able to like love up on those people who came. And they're actually, Mary is coming next September too. Like she's paid again at a much higher price point because we raised prices significantly. And then this retreat that I'm leaving for today, it's full. It's full for, we have a 6-person maximum, and it's completely full.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so good.
And then the PR client, I would say too that felt like you could like describe it as a failure. But what I would say for sure is that it just gave me more information for what to do next. And I was able to like streamline systems, get better at like making me ask, have a better follow-up process, and know for sure like how much lead time to leave between the initial ask and a launch promotion. So now I'm able to give clients much more realistic expectations, and it didn't at all ruin the relationship between Alexia and I because she's just hired me to do all of her book launch promotion. So it was a lot of just like knowing how to communicate and making sure that like, I didn't make myself feel bad for my learning curve. Because, podcasts, they're not traditional PR. It was kind of like the Wild West, me figuring out how to be successful in that field.
I love what you just said right there. And I'm going to try to say it like you did. I don't know. I might butcher it, but not making yourself feel bad for your learning curve. That is what perseverance is. This is my first time around. I'm trying this out, throwing something at the wall. I'm not going to beat myself up if it doesn't work. And if it does kind of work, but not really, then I have the choice to keep going with it or not. And you chose to persevere and keep going. And I wonder, where does that perseverance come from for you? Deep question. I know. But where is it?
Right. From what I said before about like, I just knew that like this was the path that I would take. And I don't want to like be trite and say that because I know a lot of people struggle with figuring out like what their purpose is or like where they're going. But for me, it was just never an option to like take a different path. So it's always been like, this has to work. And I'm going to be resourceful and creative and figure out how it's going to work because like this is what I'm like here to do. And I don't know what it looks like exactly. And I don't know necessarily what the next 6 steps are, but I know what the next immediate step is. And so I'm going to like give it my all and keep going. And like there are obviously super tough days, like Brit, like entrepreneurship is not a walk in the park.
No.
It can be really like mentally challenging, right? But I think that like, I've had a really great support system around me. And I also, have just thought like, this is it. Like, this is what I'm here to do. And so I'm just going to keep going. And I would have never imagined that I would be here from like 5 years ago. Because it did take a long time to go full time. It took me probably 3 years freelancing to go full time. And I just think it's like, you have to remember that it's the long game.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. It's a long game. Now I wonder, being that you're running 2 separate businesses, and I'm talking about this a lot. I mean, this is my whole brand now, is marketing that feels good, right? Understanding who the person is behind the business and helping them craft a strategy that feels good to them and is going to get results because it's going to feel good to the ideal client as well. So what type of marketing feels good for you when you're marketing your own businesses, not your clients, but your own businesses? What feels right? What feels genuine to you?
So there are 2 things that I love doing. One is just like riffing. I feel like when I'm just writing and having fun, or even like podcasting and having fun, the energy of who I am and what I want to do really comes through. And like I feel like, like kind of like in flow, as I say. And that for me works really well. Like people are always like, wow, like you really love what you do. And I'm like, I really love what I do. Right. I'm glad that you can see that. And then the other thing that I do is I call it one kind thing. And I actually got this from Diane von Furstenberg. So Alex Franzen, a couple of years ago, I wrote an article where she mentioned offhand that Diane von Furstenberg used to write, when she was first beginning her business, would write an email every day to help somebody else. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. Like, I love marketing based on like gratitude. Or like giving. So I decided every day at like in my calendar, I have one kind of thing. And so I'll do something just like nice that doesn't require any kind of response. I'll do like an iTunes review, a Yelp review. I'll like subscribe to like a Patreon membership for like a certain podcast or something else. Well, I'll just do these like little things, or like I'll buy a friend lunch. It doesn't have to be necessarily for business, but it tends to be for business, so that's what I do most of the time.
Yeah.
And then that has brought me crazy amounts of business, just like giving and giving, or just people reaching out and being like, hey, I saw your review. Thank you so much. And they'll refer me to people, or they'll ask to work with me themselves. And like that has been really great. And then also just doing really good work, because like you said, like you're one, I would say for every 10 pitches I send, I get at least 5 back that say that was an amazing pitch. Thank you so much. And I get at least 2 clients from that round who say like, I want to work with you now. What does that look like? And so that has been huge.
Wow. That's so good. I mean, that one kind thing, I mean, if you're listening to this, if you take literally nothing else from this, I don't know how you could only take one thing from this conversation, because I feel like I need to start writing down notes like right now. But if you don't take anything else out of this, that one kind thing, that is gold. That's not just running a business. That is living your life in a way that goes far, far beyond business, which I'm all about. Kudos to you. That's the coolest. Now, I want to shift our focus and talk about what you're working on right now. You kind of previewed it a little bit before we hit record. Where's your focus at right now? What are you doing?
So pitching podcasts primarily, right? This is what I'm always doing all the time. And then I'm venturing, exploring into what it looks like to help clients book speaking gigs too.
Okay.
Because eventually what I want to do is go podcast pitching, speaking gigs, and then traditional PR with TV outlets, magazine outlets, and any other kind of like online blogs. So I'm trying to take it in tiers so that I can make sure that I'm like, excellent at each level. And then also, like I said, the retreat starts on Saturday, and it will be 6 days and 7 nights of pure Italian awesomeness. Should be fun.
So cool. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's really cool about the speaking stuff, because when it seems like when someone is trying to get booked on podcasts, if that's where they're at right now, in 12 months, they're probably going to be looking at a stage, like an actual stage, a physical stage. Right. So that makes a ton of sense that you're now kind of morphing over and creating another arm for that need. And you are literally leaving today for Italy, right? To do for your
I'm
next
leaving
retreat.
in like 2 hours.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
I'll get to the airport in 2 hours.
Oh, that's so cool. I'm so jealous. So tell me, you told me earlier that you're going to be in Italy for an entire month. So for the retreat, and then I'm assuming just for other, just to hang out because you love Italy. How do you manage the demands of your PR business while you are doing the retreat and gone for a month?
Yeah, the answer is with difficulty. Very carefully.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for the transparency.
Yeah, it's tough. I am mostly organized, but not very much. So the retreat, it helps that I have a co-director. So we actually will like go on and off for different activities so that she has time to do her job and I have time to do mine during the retreat. So that helps a lot to have that support. And then my mom actually is coming to visit me in Italy, and it's like our annual mother-daughter trip. And that's why I'm staying for such a long time, because we're doing 2.5 weeks around Italy. And she's just really understanding around like when I need to work and when I can't like hang out with her. So we'll choose like top 3 activities to do. And I'll make sure that I'm there for those. And then I'm like working in cafes or at the hotel. and making sure always that I'm like at dinner with her. So I just try to balance that like vacation work mode as carefully as possible, but it is difficult. But with the time zone, it's helpful because I'm ahead of people. So that's nice.
Yeah, for sure. That's good. Thank you for that honesty there. It's not always perfect, but you still get it done. You can still find the balance if you hold that intention. So I very
Right.
cool. I guess I never asked this, but why Italy and why Italian? What's the
I like
what's the
that.
draw there?
Yeah. This is the number one question for most people. And I got to tell you, I don't know. I don't know
Oh,
what it
that's
was.
cool.
Yeah, it was like one of those things where you kind of just like follow the breadcrumbs, where I was like, this language seems cool, this culture seems cool. And when I went to Italy for the first time to study abroad, it was just like, I don't know, I kind of felt like my eyes were open to like just a obviously different way of living, like a different culture. And I made friends there, and I really like pushed myself to learn Italian. And I feel like the challenge of learning Italian and then like succeeding at the challenge like really propelled me to like, I don't know, love it even more. And it's just been like a passion of mine ever since. Like, I can't tell you, whenever I like learn a new word or a new phrase, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing word ever. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. And it's just like a constant source of excitement and inspiration. And I just can't get enough of it.
Just meant to be. I like that. That's cool.
It's a romantic love story.
Yeah. Well, perfect for Italy.
Right?
Other than Italy and the Italian culture, what inspires you in your work? Maybe Italy is it. Like that's like it, but what's in there?
I think it's a couple of things. It's like that desire for freedom, like I mentioned before. And then also like, I just like doing a good job. I really like get off on that. I'm like, it's fun for me to like set a goal and then hit it and then like have a client be happy. Like I love that. I love that thrill. And then also, like having like my whole point of my job is so that they can get the exposure they need to do the work that they love to do. And so I think that that's fun for me to see like them being featured on huge podcasts or huge outlets. And I'm like, wow, like we engineered that together.
Yes. That's cool. That's a really good obsession to have when you're a service-based provider.
Right?
Yeah.
I hope so.
You mentioned it while we were talking about PR that from your experience, you've been able to know or kind of just adjust your expectations to know once you send the pitch, how long it'll take for something to really come to fruition from that initial reach out. Can you take us into that and just give us some pointers as people that might be setting unrealistic expectations for ourselves when we send emails? Like what do you find, and what's kind of like your rule of thumb?
Yeah, so got a great question. It depends on the podcast first, because honestly, the bigger the podcast, the longer the lead time.
Yeah.
So I can expect if I pitch, for example, let's say Tara Gentile's new podcast, What Works, I know for sure that she's booked until probably September right now. And that she won't be recording again until July. So if I have a client who wants to be in that show, I got to tell them, hey, look, we're looking at about a 6-month lead time.
Right.
So I'll pitch you this month. We might not hear back until July when they're booking recordings. And if you're planning any kind of a launch for a book or a product, you want to keep that in mind. And you want to be flexible with the host too, because even though you have a promo period, they might have something going on as well. So you can't be for sure like within your week open cart. You know what I'm saying? Even though you want to try, you can always ask, but there's no guarantees. And then I would say too that the fortune is totally in the follow-up. I can't tell you how many pitches have come through because of one follow-up. Because people are busy and their inboxes are full, and it's not personal. They're not answering you right away. So if you just say like, hey, I'm sure you're busy, just wanted to make sure you saw this pitch. Would you like to have Brit on the show? And typically I would say like 5 out of 10, I get like, yes, I absolutely would. Thanks for following up. And so I feel like my rule of thumb is 1 pitch, 2 follow-ups, and then I consider it a pass. And I'll do those follow-ups a week apart, typically.
That's so good. Thank you. And it's probably somewhat second nature for you at this point, but I find that it's really tough for a lot of people that I work with because we tend to be, you guys know I'm a personality assessment junkie. And most of the people in my audience, most of the people that I work with, that I talk with, that I am friends with, they are intuitive feelers. And so they have that N and the F in the middle of their personality type. And so sometimes they find it particularly difficult to say or accept the fact that when someone doesn't respond, or even, and especially when someone says, no, I'll pass, they have an especial, they have an issue with saying, oh, that's not about me, that's about them. They're like, no, that's totally about me. I did something wrong. Like, this is the world, you know, they automatically go to like, this is bad. This is not a good thing. I don't feel good about this. I don't know if I want to send another pitch because what if they don't respond or what if they say no? I wonder for you, was that something you had to, I mean, of course, you're pitching other people, so there is definitely a block in that emotion. But yeah, I know that I'm sure that you pitch yourself for things, and certainly you market and sell your retreat tickets. So do you have any tips for us on how to kind of just set your expectation and not take it so personally when we don't hear back, or maybe we get, no, not right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, rejection sucks.
Yeah,
It really
right?
does.
It does.
And it really, like, even though I'm pitching on behalf of people, when I hear a no for a show that I really wanted to book for them, I'm still disappointed.
Mm,
What I think is different is that I don't make the no mean anything. Like, my relationship to no is different, I think,
mhm,
because I realize that even though they said no right now, a number of things could happen. One, I typically ask hosts, cool, no problem. Would you mind if I followed up in 6 months with somebody else? Or would you mind if I kept pitching for different clients? Just to make sure that, you know, we have an open line of communication. And sometimes I'll say, no problem at all. If you need something from me, just let me know. And
mhm.
sometimes people come back to me and I say, you know what, actually, I want to hire you. Or actually, your guest sounds great for this segment that I'm doing now, this new series or this new theme. And you just never know what you're going to get with people. So maybe it's a no, but I think of it as a no, not right now. And I always say that like a no is just a no for a pitch, but not a no for a relationship.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my gosh, write that down. I'm going to write that down. That needs to go on a wall somewhere. I thank you for that. Thank you for that. And I really like the idea of when you do get a no, you know, you can still say, cool, would it be okay with you if I follow up in 6 months and see if maybe that'll be a better
Mhm.
time? That's so often missed because when we hear a no, we're like, oh, okay, let me crawl into my little corner and die. And we don't say
Exactly.
anything else. And it's still it's still a relationship worthy of being fostered. And if I find if you are at all worried about being, term it whatever you want, pushy or salesy or whatever, you're definitely not. Because if you already have that on your radar, you're not being that person. You're just not. It's the people
Right.
that don't even have that on their radar that are pushy and salesy and annoying, right? If you already have it on your
Right.
radar, you're
Totally.
good. So love it. I gotta go back through this and listen and take notes. So good. All right, we're gonna land the plane here because you gotta go get on a plane here real soon. So one
Yes.
last question we have to end with. Looking back, what advice would you give to yourself when you were first starting your business? That girl on her couch, hunched over her MacBook, trying to figure all of this out. What would you say to her?
Mm, God, so many things. Sweet girl.
Mhm.
To know a whole lot. You know what? I would say, are you familiar with Mark Cuban?
Oh
He's a little
yes.
controversial. Not
Uh-huh.
everyone loves him. But I listened to an interview with him once where he said, the biggest thing I've learned is to follow your effort and not your passion.
Mm.
And that really stuck with me because I was like, wow, it was at a time in my life where I was trying to do all the things, like follow all the passions and build a business and all like just like run amok with everything that I loved. And
Yeah.
then when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh, you know, where do I put the most effort in my life? And that's like in business building. And I was able to like let a ton of things go and focus in. And it's the only reason I've grown. to where I am today. And so I think it's really interesting to say, you know, maybe I'm passionate about knitting, but like, where am I putting the most effort in my life? And that really helps me just like get focused.
Yes, because those two things can be different. I can think of really
Right, exactly.
how I found marketing was when I was in my corporate job, being in the fitness and wellness world. I found that I was procrastinating my real work by having conversations about marketing and sales with the sales director at the company.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, there's something here. And it wasn't necessarily a passion, because I really truly didn't know anything about it, but my effort, that's where I wanted to spend my time. It was naturally
Exactly
where I wanted to funnel my energies. And I'm sure there are other examples of that, but that's gold. So good. Thank you so much for all of the truth bombs and the knowledge that you brought to this interview. So good. I would love, before we go, could you please tell the listeners where they can find you online?
Yeah, you can go to my website, cherhale.com, or find me on Instagram at 3_ what the Hale. Hale spelled Hale.
What the Hale? I love that. We'll definitely link to all of that in the show notes. And okay, so you heard her, girls. Go check her out, send her some love, and then hop into our private Facebook group to hear even more from Cher over the next few days. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Keep the conversation going by visiting marketingin.yogapants.com/Facebook, where you'll get to join that private Facebook group I've been talking so much about. There, you'll get to chat with our podcast guests. Yeah, they're in there too, and all of the other brilliant creative business owners. We're connecting, we're meeting our soul sisters, and we're building our businesses, all while in yoga pants. So come hang out with us. Again, visit marketingin.yogapants.com/Facebook to get in. And one more thing. If you dig this podcast, would you be awesome and share it with someone? This entire Marketing in Yoga Pants movement is nothing without its community. So please share. And if you're really feeling the love right now, jump into iTunes. You're probably already there if you're listening to this right now. And leave us a rating and review. The more of those we rack up, the more the podcast will be found by ladies like you, and the stronger this community becomes. This episode was edited and produced by the Podcast Engineers. They're pretty great, so go find them at podcastengineers.com. This episode was also brought to you by my online marketing agency, Jam Marketing Group, and you can find us at jammarketinggroup.co. That's all for now. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you back here next week on the Marketing in Yoga Pants podcast. Love ya. Bye.